basic things. Okay, this is about new functionalities in Solibri Model Checker version 9. This is not about the basic functionalities of Solibri Model Checker. So if you have, I assume you all know the basics. How to handle model, how to check, how to create a presentation, how to create information takeoff definitions. The theme for the version 9 is, first of all, to get a little bit smoother process. There are a few new functionalities asked by multiple users, which will be now added, which helps you, the process will be hopefully smoother. So how you get information from the rule set until to the reports, to help all those steps. Part of that is also more intelligent rule sets. They are kind of self-configurable rule sets. I will show you later on. And more for the future is that we will introduce Solibri Solution Center, which helps you to handle licenses and also get more content to the Solibri Model Checker later on. I have these slides there, but as usual, I go through by live Solibri Model Checker. This model here I will show, I will use a little bit. I also use Solibri SMC building. This is an example model generated by Vectorworks, and it also have some MEP models generated by DDS. This is a part of the OpenBIM project, and these models are freely available in Vectorworks web pages. The first thing I would like to introduce is the possibility to see all conflicts, all problems or potential problems a single individual component is attached to. So quite often it's so that if you have one component creating a problem, the same component creates problems in multiple different rules. If a component is totally located in the wrong way, or geometry or its geometry is not correct, it somehow happens that it has a lot of problems in various rules. For example, here we have a simple small intersection. There is a duct and a cable carrier, and the cable carrier goes through the duct. That's the problem from this issue point of view. If you want to see all components to say that cable carrier creates problem together with, you can open the 3D view pop-up menu. There is a new issue here, menu item, show components in issues. It will show all components that one cable carrier having which are attached to the same issues that the cable carrier has. So the cable carrier itself has attached to multiple issues. You can see the list of all issues of that individual component in the info view. There is an issues tab, and all components related for each of these issues are now shown in the 3D view. So if a component has issues, it has a new tab in the info view called issues, and where all those issues are listed. And it's also possible to get those components in all those issues visualized at once if needed. If I select here some other issues, it will goes to the results and the checking view to that place where that issue comes from. And this is that original issues. So that's the first thing we have added. The second thing is that when you create, add a slide from the issue, let's say duct goes through duct, no duct, cable carrier. Like this. You can also see some component information of those components here in the issue details. So it's always has been possible to see those components in the 3D view, but now you can get more information of those components also in issue details, and this information can be used later on. I will show through. So here we have that cable carrier and then duct. Well, in fact, in some cases you may be able to also add some else things, some else here. So if you want to add the other ducts, the part of the same duct to there, you can just add them to the selection basket and add here as listed components. So it is possible to add multiple components to the issue. Well, of course, in this case you may be able to also would like to see that in the slide, so I update the slide a little bit. Okay, those components are now listed here, and the information of the components will be okay, I have some problems with the audio connection. Okay, let's try if I still have. If you have some problems with the audio, please let me know. I have to. I continue, but there can be some problems with the audio. So let's try if it's still continue. Okay, now it seems to work. Okay, I hope it works now. There has been problems with the audio for a while. I hope everything works fine now. Okay, I continue. Oh, so the components has that information here, and as you see, that is global unique ID. That's the typical case you maybe would like to add, but sometimes you would like to add something else. So in the settings, you can set what kind of information you would like to add. Oh, I have said here that I would like to have global unique ID in the component information. So what I can do with that component information is that when I create a presentation, I have, of course, the information here, and I can edit and remove it and things like that. It is possible to get that information in the coordination report. That has been asked a lot, because some people have some other software which can read coordination report, and they would like to have more precise information of the component. So when I create the report, I have my own template here. I can get those component information here as in one cell. So it is now possible to get any information of the components in the issue to the coordination report just by modifying settings, so you can modify what information you would like to have. The other thing we do here is that in PIM collaboration format, if you are using PIM collaboration format, by default in PIM it used to be so that in PIM collaboration format while it will be include all components shown in the 3D view when the slide is generated. So in most cases you can maybe have a huge amount of components just to be referenced, just to be shown here. For example, I would like to have all walls. For some reason I would like to have this kind of case. And if I now update the viewpoint, and if I now create a PIM collaboration format file, I will have all those walls, global information in PIM collaboration format, even I don't want them. But now I don't have them anymore. I only have those components which are listed here in PIM collaboration. So it makes PIM collaboration, communication with PIM collaboration format a little bit more fluently. So I can select those issues and I can get some component information to the coordination report and also in PCF files. The other thing that has been asked quite often is that if we have a rule set which is based, for example, some building code, or which is based BIM requirements published in the web, or well, you have a document, so you can have a hyperlink from the rule set to the source of the rules or original requirements or something like that. For example, I have here a rule which has a hyperlink. I have added a hyperlink in the workspace view, and the hyperlink goes to that International Code Council web page, which tells that the amount of drinking fountains. So this is from the building code. So this is added to the rule set. So now when I have a rule where I have I have used that rule set, a model I have used it rule set here, the hyperlink is here. And when the hyperlink is added to the rule, it's also automatically added to all issues generated by this rule. Like this. And when I create a presentation from the checking results, I also get that hyperlink here in the presentation issue, and it's also here. I can use it from here from the report, and this is of course possible also in Solibri Model Viewer. So you can get from the original requirements, you can kind of refer those requirements in your reports because the hyperlink is automatically forwarded from rule sets to issues and from issues to presentation. So it helps in some cases when trying to explain the reasons for the checking, why this value, why this thing has been checked, why it's come from the building code or it comes from some BIM specifications. The other thing also which helps in generating issues or better issues, better reports, is that when you add a slide, you have here that default comment. It has been here forever, but it has been hard-coded that the default comment is always same as the issue description. So the same thing what is shown here in the info view. Well, now you can define what you would like to have in the default comment. You can have a rule name, rule description, issue description, or something else. This can be done in settings. You have here the checking, and you can say what you would like to have in your default comment. Of course, the default comment can be edited later on, so it's just a kind of template. You can continue from that, but it helps a little bit from here. The next two things are somehow related to the self-configurable rule sets. First of all, quite often the things you have to check depends on something which the model doesn't know. For example, part of the rule set rules can be valid only for the hospitals or schools, apartment buildings, office buildings, shopping malls, things like that. So type of the building is sometimes kind of key if some rules should be used or not. But the building itself doesn't know what this type is. The model itself doesn't know it. The user knows, of course. He or she can see it in most cases, or typically she knows it anyway. The other little bit similar kind of thing is phase of the design. Maybe use other parts of the rule set for the conceptual phase than in detailed design phase. part of the rule set is typically the same for all phases. Part can be depending on what phase the design is. And the same thing, the model itself doesn't know what is the design phase, but the user should know it. So it is possible now to add some queries to the rule set, that before this rule set is run, please ask this from the user. And they are quite often used in self-configurable rule sets. It is now possible to add so-called gatekeeper rule to the rule set. And there are rules under the gatekeeper rules. And if the gatekeeper rule is passed, or it's not passed, the rules under it will be run. It's also possible to check only components which are failed or which have been passed from the gatekeeper rule. This is quite theoretical, so I would like to show. I have now checked this, but I close this one and open it again. Okay. So I have here a task, define building type. And before I define it, note that there is a rule, or in fact the branch rules for other than apartment buildings. And there is a space has to be unique identifier. So I will do the task and it will ask me what kind of building this is. This list is defined when I have created the rule set. So I say this is an office building. Okay. And when I check the model, it will check also this rule here. From the other hand, this model, this is in fact an apartment building. So I just disable these two first, doesn't take time. And I open the same rule set. And it will ask me the building type. So now I say this is an apartment building. And note that that one rule set disappears from the rule set totally, because that rule is not checked, because this is an apartment building. So it's possible to make a rule set so that it configures itself. The other example of this configurable thing is, so this is the gatekeeper rule we used. So I can show the parameters. So if the user input is not an apartment, then the rest of the rules will be run. That is the other type of gatekeeper rule. And this is two things here, but this kind of thinks that if a space has a specified type of property here, if a space has a property pz space common cross planned area and its value is more than 0, those spaces will be checked. So this rule has been checked 29 spaces. The model has more than 29 spaces by default. So only spaces which has this value has been checked. So that's the other type of using gatekeeper rule. And when you take a look for the rule set manager point of view, you notify that this is that you just add a rule under other rule, and the rule which has something under it, it has those, it is then automatically a gatekeeper rule, and there are options for the subrules. when the subrules should be run, when they should be checked. I don't know if it makes any sense for you, but that's the way it works. This makes life for the end user point of view easier. He hasn't have to take care of rules which are not important to him or her, but of course creating rule sets can be quite challenging. We have one new rule type or rule template, only one, and it is very, very simple one. In fact, it doesn't check anything. It just creates an issue every time. And the idea of that is that sometimes there is a need for the manual checking, the cases we don't have a rule, or need for the check something which really doesn't exist in the model, or maybe just a placeholder for the future rule we haven't created yet. A typical example is that, for example, in Finnish BIM requirements, it says that model has to have, when you make a model and forward it to the BIM coordinator, you have to include also so-called model description document, which is a separate document. It's nothing to do with the model itself. It can be a Word file or PDF file. It's not included in the model. So it's impossible to check that automatically from the model if that document is delivered or not. But you can have a rule which asks you to take a look if that is generated or if that is delivered, and you can manually then define, yes, it's delivered or it's not. So here we have a rule, BIM specification is required, and if we go to the model checker, note that it has an issue. BIM specification is needed, and now I have to manually check if the BIM specification is delivered or not, modeled, and if it is, I can just accept, and if it's not, I can add a slide and say reject it, and like that, and now it's part of my report when I create the report for the architect. So just one simple rule with parameters. You can say that what is the category name, what is the issue name, and issue description. The other change for the rule templates we have done is that there is one quite challenging rule which compares different property values either inside same space, same component, or components located in the same space, or components located in the same wall. There are some new parameters which allows even more flexible, more possibilities to use that rule. It is a very, very generic rule. You can have multiple different possibilities to use that, and I just have one example, and I think a couple of the listeners are interested about that. So here I have used that rule, and this is the same as that one. You can you have been possible to use before. So this checks that every space which have that PZ space common cross-planet area, so some property, the area of the space has to be at least the same as that required area. So the space has the requirement in its property sets, and now the rule is checking that if the area of the space is at least the same as that one. Well, this is the old rule. You already has that in example rules in version 8. But it's quite often needed that, yes, the area have to be more than required, but it shouldn't be too much more. So, for example, doubling of the required area is too much. So here we have another version of the same rule, that area shouldn't be more than 1.2 times this required area. So you can really compare that, okay, that amount, that some property has to be more or less than something, and you can multiply the requirement with the factor. So it makes some of the use cases more easier to be done. For example, in some structural assemblies, there are those lift components, and they are capacity of lifting is the property set, and the capacity of lifting has to be at least 1.4 times the total weight of the whole assembly. So this is the safety reasons, that 1.4. So now you can multiply the capacity by 1.4 and then compare to the weight of the whole assembly. We have updated some rule sets. First of all depending rules has to be, the dependencies of the rules inside rule sets has been removed, because those gatekeeper rules can take care of that, in fact, more intelligent way. And some of the rule set has been removed from the default installer. For example, all US-based building code specific rule sets are not included in the installer anymore, but you can find them from the Solibri Solution Center. So we can reduce amount of rule sets from the default installer and allows user to download those contents, those rule sets or some other contents from the Solution Center later on when needed. This also allows us to add new rule sets more flexible, not only when the new versions come out, but anytime we can add new packages to the Solution Center and users can download them when needed if they are interested in. So in fact, this comes to the case that the Solibri Solution Center, there are two things in Solution Center right now, later on more. First of all, the licensing system has been totally changed. They will be, well, let's say, this is the old licensing system. We have one company, they have, one company, they have their license server, and they have the users and some administrator. And the admin has to be sent us information about the server, and we provide them. We provide the license for the company A. Same thing for company B and C and so on. And when that server is changed, some reason, for example, they change of the computer, they have to send new information for us, and we send a new license. Or if somebody would like to buy more licenses, we have to kind of produce them a new license, and once again emails has been sent back and forth. Not nice for the administrators, not nice for us either. The new licensing system is based on cloud, totally. So it is, we call that Solibri Solution Center, and it's a cloud-based system. And first of all, it's also for the beta testing phase. Your administrator will get email from us with instructions what to do. According to those instructions, the administrator will add users to the company's license pool. So for, let's say that the company has 5 licenses and there are 15 people using Solibri, so that administrator just add those 15 people to the license, to the kind of license pool of the company. He can do that in manually, or he can import the values from Excel. It just takes names and email addresses, not too much. When a user is added to the license pool of a company, the Solution Center automatically sends email to the user. And user just follows the link in the email and sets his or her own password. And then he can start using Solibri Model Checker in a normal way. Of course, Solibri model checker has to be also installed to his or her computer, but this can be done in the same way as before, or the user can download from the Solution Center also the Solibri model checker and install it. But this this allows that when the company buys more licenses, they are just added to the Solution Center. Or there are more people coming, or some people are not, shouldn't be used anymore, they can be removed by the administrator. Later on, it's also possible to create different pools inside a company and divide licenses within different pools inside a company if needed. Also, the borrowing of the license is made from the cloud. So if you leave the company, leave the office, and forget to borrow Solibri license, and at the home, and you don't have you just have to go to the web, internet, and you can borrow the license. You can get the license from the internet. There is a question about if the user has to be connected to internet when using Solibri. No. He has to be, the user has to be connected to internet when he borrow the license, and then he can borrow the license for a week, for a month, for a day, and then he or she can use Solibri without internet connection. In fact, I just tested that last weekend. I borrowed the license on Friday and used whole weekend without any internet connection. No problems. This will help a lot in the managing of licenses inside companies. The other part of the Solibri Solution Center, the old name we used is a marketplace, is also that there is a place where you can get new content for the Solibri. So there is in the file, there is a Solution Center, and you can download some products. Now we only have our own products there. Later we can, for example, add some BIM collaboration format plugins for the different other software. It's maybe something like that we can maybe deliver by using the Solution Center, of course, if the owner of those software would like to have it. Also some extensions like rule sets or some ITOs, maybe like Copy, the total extension of the Solibri, can now be downloaded from Solution Center. In the future, it's also possible for the third parties to create rule sets and ITOs and package, all that kind of packages, and either just deliver for free or sell by the marketplace. But this will happen later on. Also, it will be possible in Solibri Solution Center for the administrator to control how Solibri is used inside a company. So the admin user can see like some statistics and things like that. That will be possible later on. There are some questions about, well, we don't know, well, maybe we can know how much it's used, but much more important is that the administrator of the companies knows how much Solibri is used inside a company, and that has been asked a lot. So now it's possible, will be possible. There is also a question about that it is still possible to use one license per one user. So I don't understand. You can, it is possible to have 15 users and only one license. Of course, that one license can be used by one user at once. It is also possible to have 5 licenses and 5 users when every user can have a license, of course. In fact, the user from the Solution Center point of view is the user and the computer combination. So you can have multiple Solibri running in the same computer by same user, it only takes one license. But if the one user starts Solibri in multiple computers, then every computer takes one license. So it's a combination of the user and the computer. You will get an email about the beta and also instructions how to download, how to start using the new licensing system. The email will be sent to you and or your system administrations later this week. In fact, that's all from the version 9. If you have something to ask later on, you can then send email to us. I will answer those questions you have sent. So there is a question about it. Once several users can now use one license simultaneously. No, of course not. Of course not. It never has been possible. If you have one license, the only one user can use it. If you have two licenses, two users can use it at the same time. But if you have one license and you can use this in the same computer, you can use multiple SMC sessions, just like I have now. You can see here I have 2 sessions of SMC in my computer, and I'm only using one license. That's the way. But if I start SMC from some other computer, then I take another license from our license pool. Okay, if you have something else to ask, please write your questions. I will keep this webinar open for a couple of minutes, and later on we will ask questions if you send it to support@solibri.com. I stop recording in any case because I think there's nothing